Let's start with the dice principle. You won't actually need a dice. It's just an image to help your mind thinking about things. And to explain that principle to you, I want to start with how I had that thought first in my head. I'm someone who loves complaining about how bad he runs, even when I'm not running bad. And I was describing some situations with the numbers of the dice when I had that feeling, especially about pre-flop all-ins, that I'm just running in the always one better. Instead of saying like, okay, kings versus ace king, queens versus kings, jacks versus queens, I used the number of the dice and really felt like, oh, when I have a 5, which is really strong, they have a 6. When I have a 4, they have a 5. And when I finally have the super nuts, unlucky me, villain always has a 1 and is not ready to pay any money. And then I thought about, hey, how can I make use of that, actually? It's just a little mind game to think about, but it can actually help you post-flop quite a lot. And it does help you to set the right focus with which lines to take. Which hands in villain's range are you actually worrying about, or are you attacking? What is the best outcome that you want to achieve? I want to give you an example. Let's just say we have a 6, which stands for the freaking super nuts. And we have a river decision. Well, what should we focus on? We can either be on the first level. We put villain on a hand. I think he has 4th pair. And let's squeeze the last cent out of him. Okay, great idea, might work, but we don't need the nuts to do so. Let's get to the next step and think about ranges. Oh, villain has a full range. If I have the freaking nuts, what should my focus be on? Well, get the freaking setup in versus his second nuts. The worst thing that can happen is to make your hand look that strong or make it look that trappy that villain ends up calling the second nuts. And instead of winning the full stack, we only win like a small bet or something. So this is what I want to have in my mind. Whenever I have a 6, I want to think about how do I stack villain's 5. I want to give you an example or two. Let's say we are having the nut flush. What is our main focus when the board is unpaired? Well, we want to stack the freaking second and third nut flush. That is important. So we need to make sure we are having the last word to put all the money in the middle. This can work in different ways, right? We don't need to start with big bets. If I bet small on the flop, small on the turn, small on the river, whatever, villain will raise his second nuts. And then I can go over the top. The worst thing would be to, let's say, overbet non-all-in 150% on the river, that villain is like, oh, he has the nut flush or nothing, so I just call my second nut flush, and, well, we are just like losing half a stack or something. Let me give you a second example. Let's say we are having pocket 5s on king 5-3. We start by betting in position. Turn is another 3. What should we focus on? Well, again, the same thing. We have the super nuts. We focus on villain's second nuts. I want to make sure I get the whole stack when villain has a 3. Now is the question, well, do I need to overbet, go crazy? No, I don't, because villain will raise his 3. And this is my focus. My goal is not to bet big or anything. My goal is to get the maximum money in, whatever line I achieve that with. Okay, enough about nuts. What about when we have ear? It's the same thing. Where's the number? We are full of shit. We have nothing. What should be our main focus? Definitely not to blast villain off the second nuts. Sure, there are spots where we have great blockers to use or anything, but our main focus first is, let's fold something out that is slightly better. Let me give you an example. We're blind versus blind. The board is 10, 7, 4. Turn is a deuce. River is a queen. We have all the jack nines, 8 nines, 5, 6, 6 fours in the world. Let's say we have the nut low. Let's just take 5, 6. We have that in our range. Well, what is my main focus now? I need villain to fold his 8, 9, his jack 9, the open enders that missed. I want just to fold out his 9x. I want to fold out his jack high. If I have, let's say, a missed queen jack, maybe I have even showdown value, or I need to choose a different sizing because I have a different range part to focus on that I need to fold out to make that a profitable bluff. One more example. We have a 3. We check call in the big blind out of position, a mid pair. Villain checks the turn back on whatever card. River is another whatever card. Now, it's our question, how do we get the most money out of our hand? So the next focus is, well, does it make sense to bluff out 4s? Well, maybe if the board changed quite a lot, but probably not. Is there a chance to get even more value from something that we could call a 2 for villain? Right? Does he have bottom pairs or pocket pairs that are worse than others that have a good reason to catch and we can put in a block bet? Perfect. Then we should do so. And this is a little helper to just always know what to focus on. What is the range part you want to attack first, given your hand class, the strength of your hand? So the takeaway of this little dice principle here is really that it can help you to have the focus on the right things. When you have the nuts, make sure to stack villain's second nuts. If you have the weakest hand possible, a bluff can be good with only the goal of folding out villain's 2s, even like just slightly better air. I gave you lots of examples, and this is something you can always focus on. And this is where the dice principle should help you.